Hello and welcome back to American Diesel. My name is Joseph, still Joseph. I wanted to talk about two things today. I wanted to talk to you about the things about the trade that I really thought created room for me to teach you the things that they would never teach you. There's a lot of the people who I've looked, so I'm not talking out of my ass. If you look online, you see a lot of people who are producing content, and those few of those people did this as a job. A lot of them might be really talented with it, so I'm not saying that at all. What I'm saying is, to be a billable hour in a shop, you've got to be super proficient in your job. Now, I'm going to explain a few things over here that are going to break down some scams, but I wanted to take a moment just to tell you about me and maybe help you better understand where I'm coming from, why I'm doing all this. So, what I want to start out with is a lot of people will tell you, and myself included, I think I told you on a video that I had a Cougar, I couldn't roll the windows down. I had someone help me with the relay, Sergeant Stubler, and was able to roll the window down. I thought the man was a genius magician, talented beyond belief. It's super not complicated. So, the lies we believe about life, I told myself that I couldn't do those things. So that precluded me or kept me from ever being able to do those things. Until I told myself, let's try, let's buckle down, let's really try. And I got a process of information available through the dealerships I worked at, where you would go through self-paced training modules. For a while, and the reason I'm just going to tell you this as a side note, it is important, which kind of leads into this about flat rate and hourly rate. But for a while, to try to keep my numbers in good shape, I would punch off the clock, and I would just wait upstairs and I would do training online. That enabled me to do 600 tests. I was the guy who said, my service manager, Kurt Von Salzen, said I was the only guy who finished out the whole entire self-paced training module that was available to all those guys. Also, I did the Detroit and Mercedes-Benz prerequisites online, and then gained all the certifications I need to be able to be proficient in a shop working on them. Wasn't able to go to Detroit school. I was able to go to Cummins to their schools and certify a building later on, which is what you see here. I'm not saying this to gloat at all. I'm trying to tell you that I've seen the top rung, so to speak, of technicians. I've also seen a lot of people who are scamming you, and I'm going to explain why they're scamming you. But you need to know where I'm coming from. So, I'm just going to show you a picture real quick. So that, brothers and sister, right? The bottom two are no longer with us. Rest in peace, Corey and Paris Alexander Linares. But that chubby guy back there, that's me. This is after being in group homes for a couple years, living a really tough existence. I've got Rashad here as a top because I want to give you just, we'll call it an icebreaker. It's me being honest. So here I am, this really chubby, 6 rolls, scared kid whose mother's stay-at-home mother, father, postal worker. And here I am exposed to what I believe to be the most violent situation I could have been exposed to, which was all of the street kids in Sacramento during the early 90s and mid 90s. Those became my peer group just by exposure, really. So I went into group homes at 11, and I mentioned this. I'm not going to mention it again after this because I'm not here to extract any pity or sorrow from anybody. I want to tell you how it built me and what I decided to do to make sure that I could overcome the lies I believed. So, Rashad's a 16-year-old gangbanger. He's got a limp from being shot, and the man can lift himself on a pool table straight in the air. His friend was 16 years old, and his name was Johnny. This was in the Sacramento Children's Home. And like I said, I'm 13 and just chubby and scared. And I'm taking grief every day. These guys are just, it's very, like I said, getting beat up, getting slapped. Anyway, I eventually doubled up and let one of them have it, Johnny. 2 days later, Rashad walks up to me, this big ass crip, and he says, "Did you hit my friend, Johnny?" I said, "Yeah, he's picking on me every day, man." And Rashad doubles up his fists, and with like Bruce Lee speed and power, he hits me right in my chest. And I thought instantly I was going to perish. I hobbled inside with the air left in my body and waited for my death to come. It never came. And I realized that you're either gonna get tougher or stronger, or you're not gonna make it. I also would like to state this. I lived in 16 different homes from the time I was 11 all the way to 18. I was in special ed classes. I was told that, I wasn't, didn't learn at the same rate, and I had deficits of learning, right? I believed that for a long time. Like I said, I was fat, right here. I felt like I was discarded as a youth. I won't get into the specifics about my family setting, but that's the way I felt. I felt like I was alone to handle life, and that generally I probably wasn't a good person because I wasn't accepted by those who I thought were supposed to be closest to me. So, I'm saying all that to say this. If we look at the other side of the board, I'm going to give you what came out of my mind from those experiences. So I evaluated everything without the ties to a group. So my interactions with people, my observations of life, were what I judged everything on, not necessarily the influence that someone had told me what to believe. That's a big thing because a lot of people, their minds are convinced that they're right. But if you put that mind in Papua New Guinea, then they would share in a feast of a man, right? And we know that's not okay. So I wanted to once I pushed my mind, going to special ed here, to learn, I found that I could. So when I started to go in these classes, tech classes, and I started doing the online training, I realized a lot of those things that maybe I didn't learn or didn't learn well had a lot to do with my personal interest. I think we're in a generation now too where we're looking at people and we're saying they're not going to be performing the trades as they were before as such a viable option because they're not interested. I myself, I don't like being dirty. I'm a very clean person. And so wallowing in grease and grime, I love my family dearly, is why I do it and why I did it. What I really enjoy is teaching, because I think that whole idea of teach a man to fish, you can eat for a lifetime. If I have a skill that I possess that I can give to you and you can eat better or do your own work, save money to eat better, then I've done something good. And there are other things I'm doing to try to accumulate wealth in this world, but I also wanted to read you this. So this mission statement, after reading Think and Grow Rich, listening to it several times on audio, before my brother passed away and after, I came up with this very clear vision of what I wanted to do with myself for the future, what I wanted to generate or create in this world. And I said, I wrote this down, and it's been wherever. I think I told you guys I started in a little 88 Jeep Wagoneer with no seats. It had a welder, compressor, basic mechanic tool set, and I would go around and peddle my service, all right? But I had my own tools. So I wrote this statement in that Jeep. My desire in life is to have the spiritual maturity to know what to do with the many millions of dollars I earn. I desire to better the world with my contribution to areas like charity, addiction counseling, the poor and homeless, and justice for all. I desire to have the means to be extremely generous to my family, but also to my community, my nation. I want to leave the world better by a redeemed change in society and acknowledge that I was loved by my family, and my many hours of loving and learning with them are long-lasting for generations. I'm telling you that because that is who I am. That is the summation of my desires in life. Now, you didn't read in there a Lambo. You didn't read in there even a Humvee. I have the Humvee, I'm giving it away. So it's not a matter of me always looking around, because I wrote this down because my mentors, people who took interest in me to show me something I didn't know, got Larry Bucher, Joe Cusack, John Jimenez. The whole military experience was full of people you could look up to if you really wanted to gauge good, strong character. Men of honor, courage, and commitment. That was amazing to me to watch so many guys, and that influenced me so much. The trades, clearly, I said earlier, they saved my life. They enabled me to have a means to make money to feed my family. And imagine that you could make $11 an hour and how fast you could change your setting or situation. And now, let's change that to $100 an hour. That's exponential growth in your ability to make that much change that much faster. So I wrote here also that there's real money for electricians, particularly, and specialists. And when I say specialists, so when I worked for Kurt Von Salzen at the Sacramento Truck Center, you could either be a journeyman technician, meaning you could do anything bumper to bumper. And then you could also be an engine specialist or an electrical specialist, is something that I did when I worked there. And you could make the commensurate or the same amount of pay as the guy who was the journeyman. So in my book, I was like, well, let me find out these things and see if I can't bridge the gap a little faster, because I always wanted to work as hard as I could for my family. When I was there for 8 hours, there's no one who could say I was sitting there smoking and joking. I worked for 8.5 hours. I, generally speaking, for 10 plus years, never even took a lunch. Now, you're also talking about this group home kid, so I'm not, maybe I am more driven, but maybe it's because of the struggle, I don't know. I'm not better, I'm just different. And so that was the kind of stuff I was doing on my own time to try to, like I said, bridge the gap so I could have the same kind of pay scale these guys had. And what I came to realize was a couple things. I wanted to say one more thing. Without my little brother, I'm not sure I would have pulled through this far. The Lord gave me a little brother, and he believed in me. I want you to know, I believe in you. I know that these things might in your mind sound like, I'll never get these things, or maybe they're not complicated enough for some of you. I'm doing that on purpose. We need to start from zero, because I'm here to empower everyone, not just some guy who wants to get a cheap answer to how to fix a problem necessarily. I want that to be a wider spectrum of people who can be affected by the things I've put my brain into learning for the last 20 years. So, diesel shop scams. You will find that these are called accreditations. There are automotive service excellence, ASE certifications that can be had. That doesn't mean that you have a mastery. It means that you have enough time in the trade and that you can think in the way that they ask those questions. I would say that if you had 7 of those certificates, that you might have a full mastery of the whole of it. I don't claim to have a full mastery of the whole of it so much as I claim to have an absolute mastery of electrical system diagnostics. And the reason why we started here instead of going directly into diesel, because you can't work on the modern day diesel engine without a mastery of electrical. You need to know what that valve is supposed to be doing. The days of old are gone. And my millennial generation is bringing about this idea of tech, the electrical mindset, and a merger between that and the mechanic. And this is the interval, this is the middle ground. This is where everybody starts to understand, oh, now I see what that sensor's doing. Now I'm not so curious what boost pressure is and how, I know what it is, I knew what it was, but now I can see what the computer is using as boost pressure to interpret what kind of power or fuel is being delivered. We're gonna go over these things, but you can't start there. And my intention, like I said, is to lift as many people out of a situation where they have no skills to, in this arena at least, into a point where they can start to believe in themselves and gain these skills, because that is possible. So we have auto repair's biggest never before spoken about lie. I almost want to do a video on this on its own, but so here's the deal. There's 2 ways mechanics are paid. No one's ever going to say this as blatantly as I'm saying it. One is an hourly rate, the other is flat rate. If I work flat rate, I get paid for every hour that I bill in that shop. If the water pump takes and pays 2.5 hours, if I do it in an hour and I cut every corner, I get paid more as a technician. I get paid for that 2.5 hours. Maybe it's only 15, 20 bucks, who knows what it is. But that's a big ass hustle, because you're getting charged for time that that dude didn't spend. Never, ever, ever go to a shop that's a flat rate shop. Always ask, how do you pay your guys? They should be willing to say, pay them by the hour. Now, the way it works if you're getting paid by the hour is you try to cover your time. So if you get a broken bolt, you go up to the service manager. One second. You go up to the service manager and ask them, hey, can I get an hour for this broken bolt? For the most part, they just have to document when they spoke with the customer and then make sure it's on a contact sheet to cover their ass, to make sure that the customer doesn't say, hey, I didn't approve that. And in the end, there's no debate of whether the bill was this. I watched that guy, I think it's Cali Muscle, and he went to a dealership and they didn't call him before and tell him. That happens all the time. That is what happens. Most people want to leave it a mystery because they don't want the confrontation telling you that and having to argue with you. They want you to be right there so that the confrontation's on you to be able to backpedal or look like a cheap ass. These are the hustles, I'm just telling you. So, auto repair, biggest lie. If you're going to a flat rate shop, stop. Ask them. Why should you have to pay for a guy pay for labor that wasn't spent on a job? And all that does, and I'm going to a little more on that. All that does is push the mechanic to, like I said, cut every corner. He's looking at shaving every bit of labor off. Now, I know I'm above and beyond because I go to the wire wheel with every single bolt. I've seen people say and post and do all these things about, oh, I know how to do major engine repair. You'll look at the product after it's done and you'll see all the filthy bolts. Now, granted, engines get dirty on the road, but when they're built, they should be built clean, very sterile. Cummins taught me that. I didn't know that. We spent a whole day on what's called clean engine care. We'll get into that once we get into diesels. The engines. I know everything there is to know about that engine, those engines. All right, so like I said, Detroit school, Mercedes school. I worked for Volvo for a while. I worked for Mack, worked for Freightliner. I worked for Peterbilt. It's my appointment letter to shop foreman at Peterbilt. Albeit it was in the evenings, I ran technicians and a shop, and I believe I did well by my guys, and I believe I did well by the bottom line. There were many, many nights I punched off the clock and went and did extra hours so that my guys' time all looked good. Leadership is something that's very sparse in the world because most people don't love their guys like their guys. You know, they don't. There's no troop welfare. I learned that in the Marines. Biggest way to get the mission accomplished is to love your people, and if your people know the mission's more important than them, we'll always make the mission. My dad, I'm going to tell you something real quickly about Marines. Not necessarily I'm talking about myself. I wasn't involved in combat. My father was in Vietnam. He told me one time they sent a bunch of people over the berm, and each one was shot dead, and they would have sent 100. And that's the way Marines think about the mission. But and was that a poor choice at the time? In my mind, yes, but I wasn't there. I know that's a side note, but these things all matter. So I don't know that we need to discuss much more. I said, I do have two more things. I said, you could do it yourself with proper training and tools. Most people don't want to buy a $700 meter because they don't know how to use it. So stop here. I'll show you how to use it. You want content, you tell me, hey, I want to understand this. I will make a day of it. For even one person, I will do that. Why mechanics don't share much. They're afraid of their trade being replaceable. And a lot of times, you often get people hiring the new guy, and the new guy has to be trained, and then as soon as you train him, he takes over your job because he's cheaper, or he's younger, or or whatever the situation is. There's a lot of foul play as far as capitalism goes. You should know I'm not a capitalist per se. I don't believe that the idea of getting a bunch of guys, paying them as little as possible so that you can capitalize on their human resource is the way you should go about it. And I don't like being the guy to have to say, dude, that's what I charge an hour. I mean, it costs 20 hours to do that rebuild or whatever. I would much rather teach you. I believe there's more people out there who have a capacity for electrical, surely, that are not inside of shops. And you know what? You could walk into a shop right now with that and a proficiency in how to use them, they will give you a place in that shop. It might be in the corner, but you'll have an hourly wage based on these. And you don't have to buy $700 meters, but I'll tell you, if you did, you'd be the bee's knees in the shop, right? I'm going to show you how to use these tools. Think about a pocket dyno. That's all I'm going to say about that. Because I'm going to go to Fluke. I don't expect for you guys to pay for this channel to grow necessarily. I would like to see you guys buy a t-shirt for the Humvee because that would allow me to grow things. But you heard my mission statement. I have a house. I'm not moving out of my house. I have everything that I want. I have an older Suburban I drive. It's reliable. I'm not a material person. I have a vested interest in you just like people took a vested interest in me. And I believe there's enough people out there that would like to possess the information to be a master electrician as far as direct current. I don't even profess to know alternating current that well. But DC, as it applies to automotive, I can teach you the whole entire spectrum. To include, like I said, multiplexing, where you have computers talking, what they're saying, how they're saying it, the speed at which they're saying it. We're going to get into that later, but we have to build on that. So the idea here was just to kind of give you the skinny about me, tell you some things about the industry that I think are shady, and hopefully you come back and check it out. All right, thank you again. Have a good day.